What would you do if you found a child trembling in the snow, with nowhere to go and no one to turn to? On a bitter winter evening in 2010, Clara Thompson faced that very question. The streets of Chicago were draped in snow, the kind that stung your face and numbed your fingers. Clara, a nurse with a heart too big for her modest paycheck, was trudging home after a double shift. Her scarf was tight, her boots soaked, but her eyes caught a small figure curled against a dumpster in an alley. A boy, no older than 10, his lips blue, his thin jacket no match for the cold. Clara didn't hesitate. She knelt beside him, her voice soft but firm. "Hey, sweetheart, what's your name?" His name was Eli. He whispered, his voice barely audible. He'd run away from a foster home, too scared to return, too cold to move. Clara's heart broke. She took him to her small apartment, fed him soup, and wrapped him in her warmest blanket. For weeks, she cared for him, navigating social services to find him a safe place. Eli's eyes, once dull with fear, began to spark with trust. When he was finally placed with a kind foster family, he hugged Clara tightly, promising, "I'll never forget you." Life moved on. Clara returned to her routine-long shifts, late nights, and a dream she rarely spoke of, a mansion by a lake, with wide windows and a garden where she could grow roses. It was a fantasy, born from a childhood spent in cramped apartments, but it kept her going. She never saw Eli again, though she often wondered about him, hoping he'd found a good life. 15 years later, in 2025, Clara's life was much the same. At 45, she was still a nurse, still single, still dreaming of that impossible mansion. One snowy afternoon, a letter arrived, sealed with wax and addressed in elegant handwriting. It invited her to an address on the outskirts of the city. Curious, Clara drove out, expecting a mistake. Instead, she found herself standing before a breathtaking mansion, white stone, sprawling gardens, and a lake shimmering in the distance. Her dream, made real. A young man stepped out, his face familiar yet grown. It was Eli, now 25, his eyes bright with gratitude. "Clara," he said, "this is for you." She stood frozen, her mind reeling. Eli explained. He'd been adopted by a wealthy couple, excelled in school, and built a tech empire from nothing. He'd never forgotten the woman who saved him that freezing night. The mansion wasn't just a gift, it was hers, fully paid, designed to her childhood dream, down to the rose garden. But there was a twist Clara hadn't expected. At the housewarming, a woman approached her, her face weathered but kind. It was Maria, Eli's foster mother from years ago, who'd also been touched by Clara's kindness. Maria revealed she'd been a struggling single mother then, and Clara's act of saving Eli had inspired her to become a social worker, helping dozens of children find homes. Maria's presence deepened the moment, showing Clara that her single act of compassion had rippled outward, changing lives she'd never known about. Clara walked through the mansion, her fingers brushing the walls, her heart full. She wasn't just standing in a house, she was standing in the legacy of her kindness. Eli, now a man of means, had given her more than a home. He'd given her proof that one moment of humanity could echo for years. As she stood by the lake, watching the sunset paint the water gold, Clara realized the mansion wasn't the dream. The dream was the lives she'd touched, the boy she'd saved, and the hope that had carried them both this far. Yindi.